Hey, welcome to the Coach's Locker podcast with Chris Fore. I appreciate you listening. Thanks for checking us out. Hopefully, we've got some guys out there and gals maybe who are returning to their 15th episode, and maybe this is the first one you've ever heard because somebody sent it to you. No matter the case, thank you. Again, this is episode 15 of the Coach's Locker podcast with Chris Fore. Today, we're going to be talking about special teams, kickoff team. Today we're talking about the kickoff team here on episode 15. We'll also be catching up with Coach Lamont Butler. Coach Butler is a head football coach there at Trinity International University in his first season as a head coach, and we'll be catching up with him for about 15 minutes a week throughout the course of the season just to see how they're doing. More importantly, to talk about, leadership of being a head coach, all the decisions he has to make, those sorts of things. Today we're going to talk with him a little bit about, traveling, checking out hotel rooms, making sure everybody's in bed on time, those little things that end up being big things. Going to talk to him briefly about recruiting and then what he said in his team meeting Sunday night after, they dropped 2 in a row here. So, how do you approach that with the team? So we'll be hitting on all those things here in this episode of Coach's Locker Podcast. Coming right back real quick here with 10 commandments of an effective kickoff team. You are listening to the Coach's Locker Podcast with Chris Fore, a place for all coaches to call home. The Coach's Locker Podcast is a part of the Football Coaching Podcast Network. Please visit footballcoachingpodcast.com to hear and see our entire lineup of top football coaches coming to you every single podcast with valuable information to help you and your program. The Coach's Locker Podcast with Chris Fore exists to help prepare coaches to be hired for the job of their dreams and to provide coaches with dynamite resources to become even more successful in their field. You can reach me on Twitter at Coach Fore. That's at COACHFORE. And my podcast home is at 8laces.org/podcast. That's 8laces, EIGHTLACES.org/podcast. Welcome to the Coach's Locker Podcast with Chris Fore. Now, let's get after it. All right, we're here with Coach Butler to do kind of catch up with Coach Butler on his week as we're following Coach Butler and the Trinity University football team. Trinity is an NAIA school out in Illinois, Chicago, Illinois, and actually Deerfield, Illinois out there. Coach is in his very first year of being a head football coach at the collegiate level. And I just thought it'd be a really fun thing to check in with Coach Butler every week as the season progresses, kind of see what's going on in the mind and in the way a coach leads his team. You can follow Coach Butler on Twitter at Coach Butler TIU. That's at Coach BUTLER TIU. Coach, thanks for coming on again here. How are you doing today?
Doing good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm living well, Coach. So I know you said you're heading home. It's about 9 o'clock there in Illinois.
Yep.
on Sunday evening. I know you guys dropped one yesterday to a very good Concordia program who now moves to 2-0.
Yep.
So how'd you spend your Sunday today, Coach?
Woke up, went to church with the family at like 11. And then I hung out at home until about 1:30, and then headed into the office. Coaches, we had a staff meeting at 2, and then, we obviously reviewed the game, and then started to break down our opponent for this upcoming week. And then we had our team meeting, special teams meetings, and then our positional meetings tonight.
Okay. And Coach, let's talk about yesterday's game. I know you guys played number 16, 16-ranked team, Concordia. As I said, now moves to 2-0 out in Ann Arbor, Michigan. So you guys had about a 5-hour trip. It looks like maybe 5 or 6 hours by bus.
It's about 4. It's about 4 hours and 45 minutes. So
okay.
We left Friday morning Friday morning at 11. We left. We got there at about 4:45, 5 o'clock, and then we had a jog through practice, and then we headed to the hotel, had dinner, our evening meetings, and then went to bed to get ready for the game.
Coach, do you guys have a curfew when you're out in a hotel like that?
Yes. So try to get our guys 8 hours of sleep, and so we'll, based off of, but the thing about Concordia is they're an hour ahead, and so we told our guys we want them to get 8 hours, but the time difference, they'll lose an hour, so they would need to get a little bit more sleep just because they're losing an hour, because they have to wake up a little bit earlier to their body. They'll feel like they're waking up earlier.
Yeah. Do you put some coaches in charge of checking rooms and stuff like that? How do you handle that?
Yeah. So we have a travel coordinator. He's doing a good job for us, and he's also our running backs, tight ends coach, and so he put all the travel together, and so I didn't really have to worry about any of that. And then when it's time to check the rooms, I try to check rooms. They won't let me do anything though. So, all of our guys, like one of them, he's like, "Coach, I got your guys tonight." And I'll try to fight them on it just a little bit, and then I'll concede gracefully. So, but our coaches, they do a good job of making sure all their guys are where they're supposed to be at for curfew.
Is that kind of broken down by position, or how do you guys do that responsibility?
It kind of goes by position, but then it's based on the way we did it last week was based off of like where your room was in accordance to the guys around you. So I think we were on like 2 different floors, and so there's a few coaches on the 4th floor, and so they took all the kids on the 4th floor, and then some guys on the 5th floor, and so they split it up like that.
So, Coach, you mentioned that one of your coaches or a few of your coaches told you not to worry about it. They'd get your back and cover some of those guys for you. That's a great sign, I think, of a leader, a guy who is respected by the staff, not making him do some of the extra stuff. I've worked for head coaches. I would do that for make sure to look out for them a little extra. I've worked for some head coaches. I would say, hey, you check your own you check your own guys, buddy. So
yeah.
I mean, what's your philosophy of leading that staff that you're working with, Coach? How do you get that kind of respect from those guys?
I mean, for me, I think it's all about I try to serve as much as I can. Like they'll get mad at me when I do stuff like the little stuff. I'm used to doing like if stuff needs to go on the bus or something small needs to get taken care of, I'm fine doing that job. I have no problem doing that. Like it was the day we were gonna leave, I was loading the bus with waters and like some of the food that we would take for the guys. And our O-line coach, he got mad at me because he was like, "Why did you tell me you were loading the bus up?" And I was like, I didn't think anything of it. I was just loading the bus, and I knew you guys were busy and you were doing stuff. I had a little bit of time where I could help load the bus and take some load off of somebody, so I did it. So I think, for me, I try to serve as much as I can, so that they can see that, and then, when they see that I'm serving, they should have no problem, wanting to serve and do that as well. And if you can do that with the small jobs, then that shows me that you can take care of that bigger stuff if need be.
Absolutely, Coach. I love it. That servant leadership. I think that's a style I've tried to pattern for a long time myself as a head coach, as an athletic director. No job too big or small. I'm an assistant principal now, and one of my roles on Friday nights is helping make sure the away team is taken care of, our visiting team's taken care of, and Last week I was helping those guys get ice and water, and same type of thing, one of somebody serving underneath me came over, I'll do that. You don't have to do that, but I finished the job, and I think that is a very important aspect in leadership, and I think you got it right there, Coach. I think what you said rings true, and a lot of coaches need to take heart that are listening to this. Once you set that tone as you have, and they'll be quick to pick up the broom the next time and buy into that once they see you serving. So that's awesome. So, Coach, you guys, as we said earlier, you go out to Concordia, 7-0. You're down 7-0 after a quarter. Then it looks like the wheels fell off a little bit there in the second half. Second quarter they ended up scoring 30 points. Talk through that quarter a little bit with us.
Yeah. So we started the game off really well defensively. It was kind of a struggle for us in the beginning offensively. It was going, just trying to get things right. Our quarterback, he was out last week, and so, coming back, trying to get his bearings back under him. So it took a little bit of time for offense to, start doing stuff. And, defensively we're, young as a team, but, more younger guys playing on defense. And so just trying to get our guys to understand, one, is going to take time for us to, come together as a team, and then also for those younger guys to develop from high school football players to college football players, because it's totally different. And so, we had a decent first quarter, and then, the second quarter kind of got the best of us, gave up a few big plays defensively. I think we had a turnover or something there, and then I think they scored off of that turnover, and then, we came back out for another drive, and then defensively again, gave up another big play. And, we were 1 of 6 on third downs defensively getting off the field. It was just the big plays that we were giving up. And that was what kind of hurt us.
Yeah. So you guys have dropped now 2 in a row, playing another. Yep. Don't have a slouch next week. Playing another very good program in Taylor. What is the prognosis for next week's game?
Taylor's a really good team. I got a chance to see them on film, and so not doing anything different from what they've done in the past, but again, another disciplined team who does what they do, and they do it well. For us, I challenge our team tonight. We can't expect, just because we're practicing, we're doing all the meetings, all the film, all those types of things. That doesn't mean that it's automatically going to turn into a win. And all the things that we're doing, we have to do them intentionally. We have to do it with purpose, and we have to, be disciplined and detailed and all those things, and give great effort. And then that in tune can help you transfer into that. We got to earn the right, to win in a sense. And so, I challenge our guys with that moving forward this week. And, hopefully once we get out on the practice field, we'll see, what it is. 'Cause we can talk all day, all we want. We can say, we want to do this, we want to win and all those things. But if we're not doing the things necessary, then it's not going to happen. And, every team in the nation has some sort of, game prep week. They're going to practice 3 or 4 times a week. They're going to have their walkthrough. They're going to have their meetings. They're going to have their lifting, and it's all, everyone's doing the same thing. It's just at the level and the detail that you're doing it at. And that level and detail needs to transfer to Saturday once we get there. And so I just challenge our guys with that. And obviously, you don't want to lose 2 games in a row. You don't want to lose any games at all. But we got to learn from our mistakes and the things that, we didn't do well in that game. We got to correct them, and then we got to make sure that we're performing at a higher level and doing the right things, play in and play out consistently to garner the outcome that we want.
Coach, how did the team take that talk earlier tonight?
I think that, some of the older guys, it was something that they've kind of heard before. Our younger guys, they seemed a little bit more like, we can do this, and, like they were more ready to go. I think, and with a younger team and, coming into my first year and trying to reestablish and build culture, those are the things we're going to fight. Those are the things those are going to be the battles that, we have to fight. And, and this is to any young coach out there, first-time head coach or any coach, establishing culture. And I have to remind myself of it all the time as well. It is going to take time. And you have to continue to do it. And if I'm not establishing the culture day in and day out, it's not going to get established. I can't think that, man, it's just going to happen overnight. We got to put in the work, and it's tough, to be a consistent, program who's winning. It's not going to happen tomorrow. We got to do those little things every single day, and that's what it's going to take. And so I think they took it well. I think it's a challenge to our coaching staff as well, to coach to that standard, and then something to tell our guys that they gotta continue to reach that standard as well.
Yeah, it's turning around the program is no easy task. Usually, it takes 3 years is what a lot of studies have shown. I studied every head football coach who won a Super Bowl, and the average one it took them up in their third year of taking over a football program, and it's pretty interesting to see how that cycle works. Coach, last thing before I let you go, I know it's been a long day for you. I read the article about at TIUtrojans.com. I read the story of your game, and I noticed a name. It says defensively for TIU, Brad, and I don't know how to pronounce the last name, but Mowbray. Brad, is it Mowbray or Mowbray?
Mowbray, yep.
Yeah,
yep.
Brad Mowbray and Declan Miller led the way for TIU, each posting double-digit tackles and a loss. And I said, man, that name sounds real familiar. So I checked out your roster. I saw he was a local Southern California kid here from Arrowhead Christian, a school I've had a lot of experience with. So, Coach, talk to us about, just briefly, real quick. I know we talked about it on our initial podcast this summer, but briefly, the type of recruit Trojan football is looking for right now.
Yeah, so first and foremost, we're looking for a guy who's going to fit our university. And, obviously we're a Christian school, so guys are going to hear about Jesus, and that's something we don't shy away from. We're real intentional about that. And so a guy who's open to that, open to hearing the gospel, or, a high character kid who's, open to it as well. And, in terms of what we look for, academically, we're looking for high achievers, and guys that do the right things in the classroom, as well as off of the field. And then we'll take a look at their tape. Now, their tape, not gonna lie, that's the thing that gets us interested in a guy. And then once we see that, we gotta do our research and, see how well they'll fit our university, what their academics are looking like, and those types of things. And that, allows us to build a relationship with the player.
Awesome. And Coach, so right now in September, how much of your work week is, looking at recruiting? I mean, how much of that do you guys do during the week right now?
So we have our recruiting meetings on Thursday. And so, so we have to we have to make 40 contacts a week in season, and then it goes to like 80 or 100, I think, when we're not in season. And so hitting the kid up on Twitter, or, sending out an email or a phone call, just contacting the kid, and that we got our guys that we've really offered and that we're hot on. And so we want to make sure we're contacting them all the time. And then, also, I get emails all the time with guys' films, or, trying to fill out our big board. So we're looking at different guys who, we want to evaluate and get to know as well. And so we'll do that at our recruiting meeting. But, throughout the week, you just got to be doing that. And, obviously we're preparing for a game. And so like Mondays are, a heavy game plan day for us. And so not too much recruiting happens on Monday, but the rest of the week, we want to try and contact our guys and, make those contacts and build those relationships.
Sure. Well, hey, Coach, good luck this week as you guys prepare, and we'll catch up with you next weekend, talk about Taylor, and talk about how your week went.
All right. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Coach. So, yeah, I'd like to thank Coach Butler once again for being a part of our podcast every week, giving us a little insight to what it's like being a head football coach. Coach Butler, I appreciate your time every week. I know your time is valuable. Folks, the kickoff team, 10 commandments of an effective kickoff team. Before that, earlier today, I saw the Chargers play the Kansas City Chiefs. My Chargers. I'm a long-time Charger fan. Now, they really ticked me off when they moved to Los Angeles. So today, I tweeted out, right now, the Chargers to me are kind of like that, back in high school days, that really hot girl that you kind of wanted to date, maybe kind of wanted to take to homecoming or something. But then she got a date, right? She got a date ahead of you. You lost out to some other dude on campus or what have you. Maybe it was an older guy. Maybe it was an off-campus guy. Graduate. Some guy already graduated. And so now she's dating this guy, so she's off the market, but you're still curious. You're still watching. You're still looking a little bit. How's this thing going to go? It's kind of how my attitude is with the Chargers. Anyhow, they had a horrible special teams day today. They missed a field goal, inexcusable at the NFL level. They gave up a punt return for a touchdown, so there's 10 points. And then at the very end, towards the end of the fourth quarter, they were on punt return. Chiefs punted to them. They were down by, a few scores, and the punt returner bobbled the return, goes to the ground, and then he turned around and tried to pick it up. Now, I've always thought inside that 10 on a punt return or a kick return, you've got one chance to pick up a bobbled kick, If you've bobbled it, if you fumble it, you got one chance to pick it up and go. If you don't get it up clean on that first chance, you fall on it, you secure that football. We are so close to the goal line, it does not make any sense, okay, to try to pick it up and be a hero. Secure that football. And so this kid out there tonight on the special teams, punt return team for the Chargers did not do that. Picks it up, fumbles it, picks it up again. It was a mess. It was the slippery, buttered football. And so he loses it, and the Chiefs score really put a dagger in the heart in any chance of any kind of two-score comeback right there. It ended the game, essentially, with, 4 minutes to go maybe. So little coaching point there of the week on special teams. Make sure to teach your players. Not only that, I would practice it. You got to practice it with those returners. Inside the 10, man, do not try to pick up a bobbled kick a second time because you're usually going to have something bad happen. So let's talk kickoff team. Okay, 10 commandments of an effective kickoff team. I get this question a lot about kickoff teams, and man, coach, we've opened the last two games with it. We've allowed 2 kickoff returns in our first 2 games. Can you watch this? Can you help me? And I really don't have too much time right now to watch film from other teams outside of a few paid consulting services. But it's something I used to kind of do for free more, but be really honest, I just don't have the time now as an assistant principal to do a whole lot of that free consulting. But I do help some teams, as I can, or if I do have a few minutes during the day, I am helping out some guys in that way as we're going along here. So, but the 10 commandments of an effective kickoff team, number 1, you need to take advantage of what the return team is giving you, okay? Every play in football has pros and cons to it. So when you're scheming that kickoff team, okay, here's what happens a lot of times at the high school level is, and, at a lot of levels of football, to be quite honest, but mainly at the high school level, you just roll out the same kickoff every single week. And then, bad things happen and you wonder why. Well, it was easy to scheme against you because you never change anything, okay? So the first commandment of an effective kickoff team, take advantage of what they're going to give you. Do a critical analysis of the kick return team. find the weakness of their formation and try hard to exploit that. For instance, if they are simply a middle return team, just have one returner deep, why do you kick it right to them? It drives me crazy. All these teams out there will kick it right down the middle, right to a kid. Why do you do that? Because you're just not working hard at special teams. That's all there is to it. Okay, so if they got one returner deep, kick that ball to the corners. Make him work hard for it. If they are hey, we're going to, I know one team I've worked with before, we return every kickoff to our home sidelines. Every kickoff is to an alley sideline return to our home sideline. Okay, so if you recognize that, give them a ball, kick the ball to your sideline. Don't kick the ball right down the middle of the field. So, again, so many teams out there are just putting the ball in the middle of the field and kicking it down the middle of the field. Move the ball. Well, we'll get to that in a second, but take advantage of what the return team's giving you. Find out what their weakness is there and go exploit the heck out of it scheme-wise. Number 2, the second commandment of an effective kickoff team. The kickoff team, you've got to have great tacklers on your team, not just fast guys. The greatest myth of the kickoff team is speed, okay? And I disagree with that. I will take sure tacklers over speed every day of the week, okay? So, and I did some podcasts a little while ago, back episode like 2, 3. It's in if you go to 8laces.org, 8laces.org/podcast. Okay, that's where you'll see a good archive of all my podcasts. You'll see all of my show notes there. And I encourage you to go there and find the podcast I did on special teams. Okay, because we did a 2 long podcasts on special teams. And part of what I did on those was talk about personnel. To have an effective special teams unit, okay, you're going to have to make a decision. Are you going to have great football players out there, or are you going to have also-rans, okay? Are you going to have, donkeys or thoroughbreds is the way I put it. And that's not a slam towards guys who just find the field on special teams, okay? Because obviously your coach is seeing you as a thoroughbred for that team, okay? But you've got to have sure tacklers on your kickoff team, okay? So that's the second commandment of an effective kickoff team. Got to have sure tacklers, okay? So it was back on episode 4, Special Teams Organization Part 1, and then episode number 6. Episode 4 and episode 6 on special teams. I've got a bunch of checklists, in-season preparation materials, motivation materials. I've got really in-depth show notes on both of those. So episodes 4 and 6, okay? Make sure to check those things out. Third commandment of a special teams, third commandment of an effective kickoff team unit. Be careful not to overrun the kickoff. Do not overrun the returner. Stay focused on how deep the ball has been kicked and stay in front of the runner. You never want to chase the ball carrier from behind. This is how you end up giving up some big touchdowns. So if too many kids are chasing that ball, it's going for 6. That's what happens a lot of times. Okay, a lot of times is you see guys overrunning the returner. Okay, they never throttle down and come to balance to make a play. And so if you overrun that returner, okay, and if you're not coaching your kids how to throttle down as they get to that returner, if you're not teaching your kids how to throttle down, then they're going to overrun. This is a coaching point you've really, really got to hit on, is not overrunning that kickoff returner. Okay. And the way to coach it is just by doing full speed live kickoffs. You don't have to hit at all. Okay. But have them come to balance, have them tag off on your ball carrier, okay? But it's absolutely key that you teach your kids not to overrun the kickoff returner, okay? It becomes very ineffective when you get a lot of guys doing that. They're coming, full blazes down the field, not throttling down at all. Is there a drill to do that? I don't know, probably. I'm not a real big drill guy. As much as I love special teams, as much as we've had some good success running special teams, from the smallest level of high school in SoCal to the junior college level, my teams have always had a lot of success with special teams. We don't spend a whole lot of time on drills. Okay, we spend most of our time in full team periods. There's just, at most high schools, most junior colleges, there's not a lot of time the head coach wants to commit to doing drills. And if you look at where most teams have special teams breakdowns, it's not because of a specific skill set. It's usually because a kid is not where he's supposed to be. Okay, it's usually an X and O issue. So that's if I'm only given a certain amount of time, I'm usually spending that on X and O's, scheme, formation, walk through, jog through, run through on the field. Not doing a lot of individual drill work. Unless you have a head coach that's really committed and is going to get every one of your coaches working on it, it ends up being just a real waste of time. So you've got to just do these full speed, and you've got to work hard on teaching your kid when to throttle down. Make sure that happens. Number 4, come to balance. Kind of the same line of the same language here. Come to balance upon tackling the ball carrier. This might be the hardest job of the kickoff team. It's coming to balance. Okay, throttling down and then coming to balance. Takes significant practice to do a great job of slowing down at just the right time. Just like a car going downhill, kickoff team members must gear down as they get closer to the ball carrier, but they cannot stop their feet. Okay, this is where kids get beat. A lot of times it's to the outside. They'll go from 60 to 0, and then they'll stop their feet at the wrong time. So you got to keep moving those feet. But you're going to want to come to balance. The way I really like to do this, guys, is by, when we do a little bit of some drills in the season, I'll go sideline to sideline along the yard, along the 5-yard markers. So sideline to sideline, if you can imagine this, I have one pop-out bag at the hash. At the numbers, another one at the hash, another one at the hash, and then a cone at the numbers, okay? And then over on the far sideline, I'll have a ball carrier. And you can go like 10 at a time doing this. Just put one on every 5-yard marker, and they have to avoid a bag at the numbers, avoid a bag at the hash, avoid a bag at the other hash, and then at that numbers, at that cone, they got to find the ball carrier, okay? And this really helps them to, it teaches them going around those bags, first of all. It teaches them how to accelerate, avoid, and then attack. Accelerate, avoid, attack is our AAA. Accelerate, avoid, attack, and that helps to teach them to come to balance once they find that ball carrier, and then we teach them to go across that ball carrier's face. Number 5, gang tackle that returner. The fifth commandment of an effective kickoff return, the 5th commandment, gang tackle that returner. Every man on kickoff needs to be in on the tackle until that whistle blows. Never, ever assume that the tackle is being made just because there are 2 guys there. Get there yourself. So the 5th commandment is to gang tackle that returner, okay? We need every single helmet we can get on that football to get to that football. You never know when that football might come out. That play I referenced earlier today, I saw the Rams-Chargers game here on September 9th. You had guys coming hard, obviously, in the NFL. You had 10 guys, everybody but that punter, coming very hard to that football. They did not stop until they heard a whistle. It's one of the biggest mistakes I see at the high school level is guys, they think a tackle's being made and they start gearing down and stopping way too early. And the way to fix this, I was at a high school game the other night. I saw Apple Valley High School played Victor Valley High School. Apple Valley High School is maybe 3 miles from my house here. It's where my kids will go to high school if I live here still at that time in a few more years. And their kickoff team, they do a lot of onside kicks there. I'd say probably 70% of the time. But when they kick it deep, they do a great job of getting all their kids into that end zone. Okay? And it's something I started 7 or 8 years ago when I had a really, really good kicker. Actually, man, time flies. It was back in 2004. I had a tremendous kicker who went to the University of Hawaii on a scholarship and ended up kicking in the Sugar Bowl back when, if you remember that really, really good Hawaii team had with Colt Brennan at the quarterback. Our kid Danny Kelly kicked for that team for about 3 or 4 years. 3 years, I think. And, he would put the ball through the uprights on kickoff. And so our kids got real lazy getting into on that kickoff team. And so what I started to make them do was that every one of them had to run to that end zone. And that's what I saw Apple Valley do the other night. And it's teaching them, hey, we're going to gang tackle that returner. We are not letting up, okay? Just because that ball goes in the end zone, what about the time when it doesn't? Or what if Danny gets hurt, and we got to put in our backup? Luik's kicking it to about the 12, okay? So I just want them to have that mentality. I am not stopping until this football play is over. Number 6, the 6th commandment of an effective kickoff team, stay lane consistent down the field. Lane consistency is going to vary from team to team depending on their formation, their philosophy. Having said that, the general principle here is not to ever follow the same colored jersey, one of the most basic principles of a kickoff team. Doing so is going to open up huge lanes for a returner. So very important that you stay lane consistent. If you are having trouble with lane consistency, the best way to get around that, if you're having trouble with lane consistency, is by putting cones out and using those cones to show your team where they need to go. Folks, that's not an elementary type of drill. I did that last year at the junior college level with guys because we were having a really bad time. And in fact, if you go to my YouTube channel, YouTube 8 Laces, look for 8 Laces on YouTube. I've got some plays on there, and one of the videos I have is poor lane consistency. And you'll see on there a really, poor job we do of lane consistency. And so when you have lane consistency issues, you need to get out and practice it over and over and over during a week with having them run to cones. So that's exactly what we did in week 7 or 8 after playing this team last year. Lane consistency must be practiced over and over during the week. The coach responsible for coaching the kickoff team will best serve the team by standing downfield. I think this is a huge key. So when I coach my kickoff team, I work very hard to be down on the goal line to where they are kicking towards. Okay? You'll watch the returners run to you. Have another coach work, the line, make sure nobody's offsides. Last year, my head coach did that most of the time. But you're going to see the team approach the ball. You're going to see who's hustling. Okay? I argue that coaches really missed the boat by standing behind the kickoff team. This is where most coaches will coach, is behind the kickoff team. If you want to have a great kickoff team, you want to have a kickoff team who gets down their butts down the field, be down on the goal line. Have them run to you, okay? So make sure that you pay real close attention to where you are teaching and coaching the kickoff team. Again, I love standing down on about the 10, 15, 20, obviously depending on how far my kid is kicking it, okay, and exactly where we're kicking it. But that lane consistency is an absolute commandment. It's got to be perfect. You've got to stay in your lanes. Again, we preach AAA. We're going to accelerate, avoid, and attack on kickoff. Accelerate down the field. Okay, that's if you're kicking at the high school level, you're kicking at the 40. Okay, you got about from your 40 where you kick off to the opponent's 40, you got about 20 yards there. We're going to accelerate. Then from the 40 to the 20, you're going to have a zone. From the 40 to the 20, I break it down. That's your avoid zone, okay? So we're going to accelerate, we're going to avoid a block, and then we're going to attack. From that 20 on in, usually at the high school level, that's where you're going to find your man and attack. So accelerate, avoid, attack. remember to coach them up when they avoid, okay? The whole kickoff team needs to be avoiding the same way. So, they're usually going to avoid right if you're kicking to the right, left if you're kicking to the left, okay? But have them all avoid the same way, because if if you don't teach that and one kid avoids right, one kid avoids left, you just opened up a huge hole. So make sure that lane consistency, number 6, is a real big one. Number 7, make sure your containment are football smart. 2014, I believe it was, we took a backup kid. We were having a really tough time with our contain, and it just came down to the fact that the kid doing it wasn't very smart. And so we took a backup quarterback, put him on kick return, and we said, you've got one job. Your one job is to make sure nobody gets outside of you. He was one of the smartest kids on the team, okay? So your contain guys got to be football smart. The most important thing about your containment is that they understand football. They understand leverage. If they have never played before, find another person, okay? The containment, in my opinion, I really think they are the most important players on your kickoff team. Because once, as you know, if you've been around, once you break contain, it ain't pretty, okay? I'm looking right on my YouTube channel. I've got a great clip on there from last season. Santa Ana City College versus Victor Valley College, where I coached. You'll see we did an awful job on this one I put up there of contain. He lost his job, never got it back, okay? Because he knew what his job was, he just didn't do it. So I wish this medium was showing you some video right here. Can't do that here, but again, go to my YouTube channel, YouTube 8 Laces, and just click on special teams. That's a list on there, and you'll see one. It's called Special Teams Kickoff Bad Contain Job. Okay, check that out. You'll see that our contain guy, and here's where contain guys usually get beat. They get sucked in way too easily. It's a little hard to explain here. Again, I'm a very visual person, but what you'll see on this film, you'll see our contain guy on the left-hand side, he sees the returner going left, so he turns his shoulders. He turns his shoulders and starts going at him at a big angle, okay? What I teach, and again, watch this video, please, because you'll see a bad contain job, and I've also got on there a great contain job, okay? And what you'll see on that one is a tremendous job of my kickoff guy, contain guy, keeping his shoulders square all the way down. So what I teach coaches is, if I'm the contain guy, okay, I'm going to keep my shoulders square to the end zone. Perpendicular, I believe. I'm not a math guy. I'm a stats guy. I'm not a math guy. I'm going to keep my shoulders square to the end zone as long as I can. I'm basically running straight down that field, maybe at a little bit of an angle down that field, but I'm not turning my shoulders until I am even with the ball carrier. I am not turning my shoulders until I'm even with the ball carrier. Once I'm even with the ball carrier, now I can turn my shoulders to him. Yes, he's going to beat me inside. That's okay. I've done my job. As long as he stays inside of me, I've done my job. And that's a really hard thing for some of these guys to get, okay? Had a guy a couple years ago, he had a really hard time understanding, hey, your only job is to get him come inside of you. Do not make the tackle. And, he always wanted to chase too early, and got burned outside a couple times because he turned his shoulders too early. That contain guy, if he turned his shoulders too early, okay, and starts chasing inside, now if you get a burner back there returning, he can now pop outside of you because your shoulders are already turned. And by the time you go to give chase to him, it's too late. And that's where guys really get beat, okay? Number 8. So that was number 7. Football smart guys that contain. Number 8, if you're blocked and knocked down, get up. Get up. That's the 8th commandment of effective kickoff team. If you're blocked and knocked down, you got to get up. You never know what's going to happen on the play. Perhaps there's going to be a reverse. Maybe there's a throwback. Maybe there's a fumble. Don't ever quit on the kickoff. I've seen kids get knocked over on the 42-yard line, get up, and then be on the tackle. And that's good stuff right there, okay? But if you get blocked, you get knocked down, you give up, you quit, you're opening up a lane. And they might be utilizing that lane. You just never knew it. So you got to teach your kids. And this, again, what's the drill you'd use to teach this? I get that all the time, and it drives me crazy. I think sometimes we go to these clinics, we hear college guys have a drill for everything, and then we try to copy that at the high school level. It's really hard to do sometimes. We don't have, 15, 20 days of spring practice in their pads, we working on them type of stuff. So anyway, the best way to teach this is through doing it, running at full speed and preaching the heck out of kids. Don't give up. You get knocked down, get up. Let's go. Keep fighting. Number 9, the ninth commandment of an effective kickoff return team, don't be offsides. You got to practice this a lot. Okay? And one thing I like to do, I Sultana for a few years is when I started doing it back in 2015, 16. Okay, I asked my coach, hey, can I ask head coach over there, Coach Locklear, I said, hey, can I take the kickoff team during conditioning? Okay? And they do conditioning at the end of practice. I took my kickoff team and we did probably 30 or 40 get-offs. Okay? Just practicing getting off down the field. And I would do this 10 or 12 times every time I practice kickoff, and it only takes maybe 3 minutes to do it, to get 12 reps in. We're going to just go 5 yards. The kids probably run 8 or 9, okay? But it's just that first, you're kicking from the 40, you line them up on the 35, obviously, right? And we're just going to go make sure everybody's hitting that line at the same time, as close as we can to the whole unit hitting that line at the same time. That timing with the kicker is impeccable. If the kicker is kicking the ball and the kickoff team is 3 yards away, okay, this affects the coverage big time down the field. And I don't think a lot of schools put very much attention into that. In fact, I've seen a high school team this year, they didn't move their kids until the ball was kicked. Well, you're giving your opponent a good 5-yard head start. And, I'm not a physics guy. I would argue it's more than 5 yards by the speed. If someone probably could figure that out, okay? But, don't be offsides. It sucks giving them 5 free yards there. And then practice hitting that line all at the same time. And the only way to expect that to happen is by drilling the heck out of it with your kids. They're going to think it's juvenile. They're going to think it's such a basic drill. But I'll get my first line up there. Okay? Boom, go. They go through just like kickoff. My kicker won't kick it every time. I don't want to kill his leg. Okay, but he'll go through the same motion, pretend that he does. And then boom. And then they go off one side. So maybe they all go off to their right. And then as soon as they've kicked it, my second group's up, ready to go. Okay? If you have your guys in a stance, a sprinter stance, whatever it is, they're up, ready to go. Okay? And now that first team is jogging off, they're coming back around. So maybe you have 3 teams, maybe you're just 2 deep, whatever it is. But you got to practice getting off that football. Number 10, our last one here, be organized and fresh. Try hard to arrange your kickoff team so that nobody from your PAT field goal unit is on it. I was talking with a coach about this the other day in my office. One of the ways that I started doing things years ago was I stole it from Harry Welch. He would have not one guy. Harry is a tremendous football coach here from California. Back when they used to only have 3 state championships levels, divisions in California, they had, small school, medium school, large school. He won a state championship at all 3 levels, which was very impressive. He won the first state championship ever out here in California at the high level with Canyon. They beat De La Salle in a very, very impressive game in, I think, 2006, maybe 2007. First time we had state championships, and then he won one with St. Margaret's, small schools state championship with St. Margaret's at the Division III level, and then he won one with Santa Margarita in the medium game level. So very impressive coach. And I stole that watching a game one time. I noticed, my season was done. I was watching a playoff game of his, and he had 11 kids lining up when the PAT was going. He had 11 kids lining up on the kickoff. And I thought, man, I stole it that night. It was about 2008 or 9. Been doing it ever since. His kids are lining up for kickoff on the sideline with the kickoff coach or, a coach. They're lining up on the 30 as the PAT team is kicking it. And I was so impressed by that. And literally, I asked him about it, and he teaches kids that literally when that ball is going sailing through the uprights, you are marching onto that field. And he gets them in place, in set, ready to go, setting a tone. And I thought, man, that's awesome. So there's a big difference between that, kids taking the field that way, and then kids taking the field, they just got scored on, and they go through that lame extra point, where they just kind of stand around. And a lot of teams these days don't do much to go block a kick or something. And then they go so those guys are going from like defeat, getting scored on, to feet, giving up an extra point. And then they're jogging down to get, on the kickoff team. And I wonder, those kids have just been out there on the field for 10 or 12 plays. I wonder if a starting safety or a starting linebacker who's just been out there for a whole defensive series and got scored on, is he really better than a backup who's fresh, who hasn't been in? So you got to ask yourselves those questions, but that organized freshness, I think, says a whole lot. So if you organize your kickoff team so nobody from the PAT field goal unit is on it, I think that really, really helps, okay? So the last probably 5 years or so, 6 years maybe, the only kid on both PAT field goal unit is my kicker. I work really hard to make that happen. Sometimes it's inevitable. Some of you at small schools are kind of laughing at me. Hey, I get it, man. I played a whole season with 16 kids. I understand. You can't always do that, but if you can, try to make that happen. There you go. 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments of an effective kickoff team. The 10 Commandments of an effective kickoff team. I wrote an article about this as well. I'll have those up on my show notes. Again, show notes can be found at 8laces.org/podcast. That's 8laces.org/podcast. Thanks for listening to this episode 16, 10 Commandments of an Effective Kickoff Team. Hey, we appreciate you listening. Please check out footballcoachingpodcast.com. That's footballcoachingpodcast.com. We've got a really great lineup of speakers for you to check out and listen to. And I encourage you to check that out, footballcoachingpodcast.com, for a lineup of some awesome speakers and coaches that are bringing our coaching community a whole lot of information, intel, and a good wide variety on there as well. A lot of offense, okay, but a good variety of offense and a good variety of coaching on footballcoachingpodcast.com. You can find me on Twitter at Coach Fore, at COACHFORE. And again, my podcast home, 8laces.org/podcast. You can go there to see all the episodes, and you can also go there to find the show notes. I'll have my article, 10 Commandments of an Effective Kickoff Team, on these show notes. So go check those out now. Again, 8laces.org/podcast. Until next time, see ya.